Welcome to the Clear the Shelf podcast with Chris and Chris, the show that meets at the intersection of education and entertainment to discuss online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, wholesale, and all facets of selling on Amazon. We'll bring you news, tactics, strategies, insights, stories, and interviews to help you grow your Amazon business. And now, here are your hosts, Chris Grant and Chris Racing. What is going on, Amazon sellers, and welcome back to the Clear the Shelf podcast with myself and my... Sorry, guys. We'll have to cut this. Let me, gotta go into my grab bag of adjectives here. What is going on, Amazon sellers, and welcome back to the Clear the Shelf podcast with myself and my ruminative co-host, Chris Rasick. Today, we've got OJ with us. OJ is a jack of all trades, a master of none. Let's call it that.
That's safe.
And we're going to dive into kind of how he runs several of his businesses and what they are. But before we do that, you know this show's not free. If you're on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. If you're over on a podcast player, make sure to subscribe over there. And we are going to start doing some giveaways. So if you will head over to YouTube and let us know what you learned in this particular episode, we're going to be giving away a wholesale challenge replay for you guys to be able to learn a little bit about how to dip your feet into the wholesale world. And all you've got to do is leave a comment. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. OJ, thanks so much for taking the time to hang out with us, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive in a little bit. I guess the first thing, let's tell everybody what you do. You are starting a prep center.
Yes.
You do online arbitrage.
Yep.
Do you still do any retail arbitrage?
So we do shopping trips once in a while that aren't intention. We don't have the intention of doing any RA, but it just happens.
It's in the blood. You go to the grocery store, you got to find something to pay for the groceries.
Let me check out the clearance aisle, babe. You grab the sauces, and I'll be right back. I'll catch up with you.
Absolutely. I know you told me you've got a little bit of real estate.
Yes.
Before. You've got a full-time job. Yep. And is there anything I'm missing?
I think you got it all.
Okay.
And then I've got 2 kids, so that's a job in itself.
You've got 2 kids and a wife,
yes.
And so I would imagine you're pulled in many directions. So I don't know. I kind of think this episode may go down the time management path more than selling on Amazon, because I want to know. All I do is this podcast and selling on Amazon, and I've got a few other things. But between that and coaching basketball and that's it. That's all my time. So how do you manage that many things?
That's a great question, and I get that asked all the time. And it comes with time blocking. I think with having a real estate background, having set appointments and having to be on time for those appointments, it kind of gets set in your mind that time matters. Time management matters. If you're a real estate agent and you're showing up late to a showing, it's just not a good look.
Mm-hmm.
So ever since then, I kind of realized that, time blocking is going to be very important for someone like me who loves to be on time, who loves to have a set schedule. And so that's kind of how I plan my day, my week. I do that in advance. I'm not doing that the day of. So that way I'm prepared and I know what's coming and what to expect that day or that week.
Fascinating. Okay.
So you plan out the whole week in advance?
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. Whether it's going to be, I need to do an RA trip, or I need to, do one-on-ones with some of our Discord members, or, coming down for a podcast like this, everything is planned out.
Okay. So I don't know. Could you walk us through what that planning session? Because I would imagine a lot of people would actually like to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It is a good practice. I know on Sunday nights, my wife always reminds me, hey, go set up because I just use a to-do list. I don't time block, but she's like, you need to go write your to-do list and make sure you've got that down. She's like, otherwise you're going to forget.
Yeah.
Sunday is when all the ideas come to me.
Yeah.
So what does your process look like? Because I don't know. I would imagine a lot of people would probably like to maybe have a little less stress in their life.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think it all starts with starting a goal. So once you have that goal that's when you set up tasks that you're going to need to hit that goal. So those tasks, they each have to contribute again to meeting that goal. So whether it be I need to spend X amount of money to hit my 30,000 a month goal. I need to spend X amount of time helping my daughter with her math course so she can, get an A on the next test. Mm-hmm. As long as you know the goal, at least for me, that's how I set up the tasks in order to reach those goals.
Okay.
And I do that, looking at on a Sunday or a Saturday, kind of planning for the week, what I want to accomplish that week. And then again, I just work backwards from there.
Fantastic. Any other particular method you use other than time blocking? Are you using a Pomodoro technique, or are you stacking anything?
So I've got another thing that I learned in real estate, of course, with the time management. I have a planner. So that comes with tasks that are kind of top tier, tier 1 tasks. Then I have tier 2 goals, then tier 3. Tier 1 are kind of the non-negotiables. Those have to be met. Tier 2, I'd love to hit those, and tier 3, those are kind of bonus goals.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I look back, I look at my planner, I see what I accomplished, what I didn't, and then I kind of reason with myself why those didn't get accomplished, and then I move that to the next day, if need be, and they need to be hit that day.
Okay.
It's not too different from, what is it, the Eisenhower matrix?
I think so, yeah. That sounds very similar.
I forget the
need to do, want to
quadrants.
do, and I can't remember the other ones. Yeah.
So I'm not familiar with the matrix, but that sounds exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah. Essentially prioritizing.
Yep.
Prioritizing.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and now is that a paper planner?
Yeah.
Not to get too granular with it.
Yeah.
Paper planner, or is there an app that you use?
So one thing about me, I love to visualize things, have, a paper on file. That way I can look at it, refer to it. I can edit it pretty easily if need be. So I am a big fan of having a paper copy.
I love my paper.
Yeah.
I know it's not good, and I know we're trying to move away from it,
Yep.
but I love my paper.
Yeah, I've got my notes, of course, in the app, and I try to keep things, kind of in line there. But it's just a little easier for me, particularly, just to have it on paper.
Yeah. I don't know. There is something, I don't know, the tactile. I don't know what it is. I've been moving more and more to like digital books. Mm-hmm. I hate it. Okay. I absolutely hate it. But I can't take 37 books with me on a vacation,
right?
Unless I do it with a Kindle. So how much do you rely on, because you've got several businesses, you've got the real estate business, you've got the Amazon business, you're opening up the prep center. With all of this, how much do you rely on using other people's time? Whether that's VAs or employees or team members, how much are you delegating to other people just so that you can kind of still have a bit of a life?
Yeah, and I think that delegation is probably the key aspect that has allowed me to grow and kind of diversify. Back when I first kind of started my first business, which was real estate in 2016, I thought I could do everything, whether it be cold calling, door knocking, mailers to potential home sellers. And I quickly realized that, hey, you got to kind of have a team in order to be successful. Mm-hmm. The Keller Williams of the world, these guys aren't, they're not sending a single mailer a month. They're beating doors down. They're having, door knockers. They're having cold callers. So at that point is when I realized, and I hired my first VA in 2016 for real estate cold calling because I knew I needed help. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of when I, like I said, I got my first VA. And just a quick point on VAs, it's very important to know what you're talking about before you get a VA. And I know that's kind of one of the common errors that Amazon sellers often make because they want to delegate things before you actually know how to do it. Mm-hmm. So I was pretty successful in cold calling. I got contracts, I got listings. So then I was able to use the things I learned and impart them on my VA with SOPs and things that are clear cut and easy to follow. Mm-hmm. And then I just transfer that to my next opportunities, whether it be my full-time job where I was in physician recruitment and staffing. I managed a team of people, and delegation when you're a manager it's everything because you're not the one dialing or convincing the doctors to travel to Billings, Montana, in the psychiatric ward for 3 weeks in the winter. That wasn't my job, but it was my job to go ahead and delegate to my team on how to accomplish that and get that doctor in the door. So I think delegation, outsourcing, wherever you can do it, I'd 100% say, give it a shot.
Yeah, and that's an important point that you make about the VAs, because I think a lot of sellers look at VAs as almost like a rescue. They think it's going to improve something that they're not doing well, which is a misconception.
Right.
It's you need to realize that you're the one training them, and they're only going to essentially be as proficient as you are at the task. So that's an important aspect of that.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. It kind of grinds my gears when I see a new seller enter one of the Discord platforms or see them on social media, and they're just, they jump right into it and say, hey, where can I get a VA? And you really, it's best to really kind of fail forward, as I like to say. You might make a mistake, but you know the process, and that way you can kind of teach the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. What do you think the highest I guess the highest leverage tasks that you've been able to pass off to team members has been for you?
I would say for Amazon businesses has to be leads generation.
Okay.
By far, I mean, as a seller, you should spend your most time sourcing. That's going to be, the most value you get is sourcing, and if you have employees, that's going to be top as well, training your employees. But when it comes to sourcing, that's probably the biggest value add.
Okay. I want to shift gears a little bit. What the heck made you want to open a prep center?
Yeah, that's a funny question. So myself, and funny enough, I wouldn't say I'm frugal, but I'm kind of aware of expenses, and I like to really have hands-on and manage everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, I did, a couple $100,000 in revenue plus a full-time job, which, I thought was pretty solid last year.
Yeah.
But I never had a prep center.
Oh, wow.
My real estate office is literally a fulfillment center. My kids come in and help me out on the weekends, and we prep everything. However, being in a Discord group, I kind of realized that there are folks, especially the newer folks, who don't really get the chance to have a prep center when they're kind of starting off and not really sending high quantities and high volumes and 100 of this SKU. And, so I figured that the people that I'm familiar with and connect with on a daily basis, they could use kind of a prep center with a little bit easier of a barrier to entry.
Okay.
So maybe if you can tell, I'm always kind of a person for the people. I don't do everything specifically for myself and to watch myself grow. The biggest success I see is when someone purchased the leads list and they're like, hey, OJ, those leads, I went back all the way to December. I found some great leads still. They really helped my business. I went from $0 to $20,000 just, from your leads list. So things like that are greater to me than seeing a couple of orange bars on my Amazon chart. So that's kind of the mindset that I take and approach every day.
Okay. So I guess the idea was you wanted to open a prep center to be able to serve an underserved market.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the exact opposite of what you tend to see with the prep centers, just through context of dealing with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like you see a lot of them trying to raise their minimum thresholds,
Sure.
and it's, which you understand why. It's pretty easy to connect those dots.
Yeah.
But so that's interesting that you went the 180 degrees the other way.
Yeah.
That's
Good for you.
interesting. I guess the other thing I'm curious about is how did you implement SOPs with your children? Because obviously, if they were doing all that manual labor for you, I mean, you got to make sure it's done right. So
I'll tell you what. So I get hundreds of deliveries on a weekly basis. And my kids are like, hey, are those Funkos? Are those lightsabers? Are those this and that? So they kind of become conditioned to know what's in these boxes, and that it's going to be something fun. So we'll go ahead and prep on the weekends, and I'll say, hey, grab a treasure box or grab one of these, and I'll just pay them in toys. So it kind of just it motivates them. They do a good job. They learn about the business. My son he's 5 years old, and he knows about profit. He knows about margins. He knows about sourcing on a high level. So I think it's just all around great to have this business, which it may be tough to pass on. Amazon, it's not really a business you can kind of hand down to your kids because you're always buying, and your business is dependent on your inventory. So that's kind of one of the reasons I went to different ventures, such as real estate and owning different properties and having a prep center that I can eventually pass on to the kids.
yeah, I love that. what how many of your processes that you use at home are going to just transition to your prep center kind of seamlessly?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it will transfer, and a lot of it is going to have to be taught because when we hire employees, we want them to have warehouse experience, potentially Amazon experience or Amazon warehouse experience. And the good thing is when I teach my kids or teach my VAs, I always have everything documented, whether it be recorded via video or on paper. So I think a lot of it will translate, but of course it's going to be a learning curve for some of the new hires. But it's nothing, it's nothing that we haven't seen. As I've been doing it for 4 years now, and I know how to prep things, and I think it's going to be kind of easily transferable. At least that's the hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey guys, wanted to take a quick second and thank you for listening to the Clear the Shelf podcast. My magnanimous co-host Chris Rasick has put together a gift for you for being a listener. It's called the Monthly Goal Tracking Spreadsheet, and it's free. The spreadsheet will help you break down and track how much you've purchased, which should be a leading indicator of how much you will sell, and then you'll be able to track how much you've sold as well as your estimated monthly profit on a daily basis. This will all feed into the daily averages so you can ensure that you're on track to meet your goals each and every month. Grab it for free today over at cleartheshelf.com/goal-tracking. Thanks again for being a listener. Now back to the show.
We got your reps in as a teacher, so chances are it
Yeah.
sounds like you're probably pretty talented in that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Which also harkens back to how you said, the focus of the prep center and why you wanted to start one. Which, Chris, did that sound familiar? The reward of teaching somebody and watching them succeed, right?
Oh, yeah.
You said that. You've mentioned that before.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the most prideful, or I guess moments I've been proud of, is I got a picture one time, and this guy was he took a video of his son taking his first steps, and he had come through the OA challenge, and he had quit his job, and he's like, I wouldn't have ever quit my job if I had not taken the OA challenge, and now I'm here to see my son walk instead of being at a job. And I was like, daggone it.
Can't beat it.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is it is a fantastic feeling.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling that with the way that you want to take your prep center, you're going to have people absolutely beating down your door. I have a guide of prep centers on my website, and that's the number one email I get is, hey, which one of these? Which one of these will accept someone who is only doing 200 units a month rather than 400 or 500? And like Chris said, I understand the reason behind it. People who are going to send in 50 units are often tire kickers, and they may not be around next month. So I guess my question is, how are you going to overcome that? How are you going to overcome the churn that often comes from accepting smaller quantities every month?
Yeah. So I think it comes down to not only imparting knowledge on folks who are sending in those 50 to 200 units on a monthly basis. I take that, again, I know you mentioned Chris as kind of being a teacher. I take that as a teaching opportunity as well for me. So if they bought those 50 units and they sold those 50 units, next month let's go for 100. Next month let's go for 200. So that way they grow and I grow, and we grow together. So that's kind of the mindset I have. It would be a lot easier if I have a 500 minimum quantity for an ACE in a month. Yes, I would still have potential clients and customers, but I want to help, quote unquote, the little guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of my mentality, my aspect. There'd be no greater feeling than having someone, who's only doing, 5,000 a month scale to 30,000 a month because they got into a prep center that was willing to take them on. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the way we're looking at it.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, there should be no shortage of demand, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't think so at all. All right. So one of the things I'm curious about, especially with someone who, is kind of a jack of all trades like yourself, which when I said that earlier, my second thought was, you know what, that didn't come across very nice. But I actually think that being a jack of many trades is a massive advantage. It's who is it? James Altucher. He always talks about how if you take two, or maybe it's not James Altucher, but you take 2 or 3 or 4 skills, combine them together, and you can be average at all 4 of those skills. But once you put them together, you're now top 1% in your kind of category of one.
Altucher, Idea Sex, right?
Yes,
Wasn't that him?
that was him. Yeah.
Not as bad as it sounds.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and don't Google that though. So, I guess what I'm curious about is what have you taken from all of the industries that you've been in that you can actually use in your Amazon business and the prep business?
Yeah. So I think that this question kind of starts deep rooted from when I was a little kid, and my mom would buy me Nintendo games, or she'd buy me a Super Mario Brothers, but then I'd beat the game, I complete the game, and then next week I have WrestleMania, and she's like, well, wait, what? You're 10 years old. How'd you sell and buy a new game? And so that entrepreneurial mindset was just in me at a very young age, growing up in a very condensed area, selling 50-cent candy bars for $2 to kids at school, and just kind of that mentality has just always been with me. And then I think my first job out of college was with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And man, very grueling job, but the training is top notch that they provide to you.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, you learn just so much on how to interact with people. You learn about customer service. You learn how to manage people. It's safe to say I would never walk back in and manage an enterprise again. But man, the tools that they taught me have just been invaluable, and I carry those from when I started with Enterprise in 2014 all the way till today. So I would probably say that Enterprise probably had the biggest impact on my life as far as an actual job goes, because I was able to use that and then go ahead and train VAs, go ahead and interact with people on Discord who are paying members to our service, and those all translate to a better Amazon business. When you have more confident VAs who send you better products, you're able to make better buys, and in turn you'll grow. So that's kind of been my journey.
Interesting.
Now, if I can, I'm going to hijack the conversation a little
Sure.
bit. Enterprise, they also sell cars.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And we actually bought a car from Enterprise Sales,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty divisive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's 2 very different schools of thought, and I want your take on it. My thought was the maintenance is done on a regular basis, without fail.
Yep.
It's probably as far as from a maintenance aspect, a good car to buy.
Mm-hmm.
Other people worried about different drivers hopping in there at a high frequency and
Driving
safe to
it
say
like
they're
they're
not
stolen.
all good drivers.
Sure.
And you really hammer rental cars, so it's not going to be up to par.
Right.
Which side are you?
So on that point, both of those sides factor into buying a car from Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Hertz, because you'll get the same thing. So the good news is the car is going to be lower miles. It should be around 50,000 or less. Typically is when we pull them off of the lot. The year is going to be newer, so 3 years or less. So let's say we're in 2023, you'll probably get 2020s on the lot at worst. But yes, the loafers, the lube, oil, filter, maintenance, those are all done. Lube, oil, filter, rotation, those are all done properly. The cars are maintained. There's no recalls. So you're getting definitely a better cared for car. But your title will still show that it was a rental vehicle. But at the end of the day, that the vehicle was highly vetted. So it's normally a safe buy.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think you made a good choice. Do you still have the car?
Actually, only recently got rid of it.
Okay.
It was a great car
There
for
you go.
us.
Yeah.
So
I actually bought a car from Enterprise once
Look
too.
at that.
I had a Volkswagen Passat.
Okay.
It was a great car.
Yeah.
It was a great car.
but you got the other side of it. Like, how could you? What
Oh,
were you
absolutely.
thinking,
Yeah.
right?
My dad was like, this was a bad move. That was not smart. I drove the thing for years and sold it, and they were a friend of mine. They sold it they drove it for another like 4 years until I think they wrecked it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was a
There you
great
go.
car.
Yeah, we never had any wrecked cars or vehicles that had a lot of wear and tear. Those never made it to the lot. So you get the cream of the crop at least.
Well, thank you for indulging. me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's talk a little bit more about prep because I think let's be honest. It's a boring topic. It's not fun to talk about. However, everyone wants to know how to do it better, and things like that. What are some things that you've learned over the past 4 years to make prep easier, faster, and also, I guess, make sure that the items get to Amazon in a good condition so that they're not throwing it away.
Yeah, that's very important. And I know early on in my Amazon journey, I kind of would operate outside of Amazon's criteria. If something was fragile, I wouldn't bubble bag it or I wouldn't box it. I'd just kind of risk it. And then, I'd kind of see those returns and things of that nature. So I quickly realized that it's just best to do the right thing. Whenever you're thinking if something is good or not good to send to Amazon, put yourself in the customer's shoes. That's what I like to do. I often see, hey, I've got a product that I'm gonna sell it as new, but it does have damaged corners. I simply ask, how would you feel if the item was received? So prepping, it's not a glamorous or glorious task. It's like you said, it's not great fun. But at the end of the day, you want the customer to receive the item as if they walked up to the store and got it off of the shelf. So my name would be tied to that. My prep center's name would be tied to that, and I want to make sure that we're holding the same standards that we do for our own store for our clients. So that's kind of how we're going to go with the approach.
I like it. I like it a lot. I haven't asked. I know it's right on the shirt, but what's the name of the prep center?
Yeah, so it's actually called Prep Boyz. So of course I've got the business and entrepreneurial background. My two partners, they're actually engineers. So we kind of made it as a nod or an homage to Pep Boys. So Prep Boyz. So yeah, it'll be here in Sunrise, Florida, not too far from here.
Nice, that's awesome. And so here's one of the things, and I'm just, because we have a podcast to be able to ask the uncomfortable questions. One of the things that tons of OA sellers are looking for is tax-free prep centers. All right, what is your plan to overcome that hurdle with potential clients?
Funny enough, I know being in Florida and we do have the taxes. I know there are a couple of ways potentially to kind of work through that. But just being in the Florida market, I've developed connections with folks in Pompano Beach, even all the way up to Orlando, that are excited to work with a familiar face.
Nice.
I think we spoke earlier on just relationships, and I think that's huge in the Amazon business and Amazon space. When it comes to prep, when it comes to potentially knowing new suppliers and distributors, those all come from relationships. And I think even though I'm not a big social media guy, I kind of just I took a step back off of social media maybe 3 years ago, just to get my mentality right. But I've managed to kind of build and network through Discord. And that's kind of how I met you and then teamed up with the Buy Box and groups like that. So that's kind of how we're doing it.
Awesome. Yeah. Are you going to accept retail arbitrage clients?
So that's going to be the tough part, and it's a no for now, due to the different variables.
Things like number of stickers and stuff like that, or you don't want to have drop off or...
Yeah, drop offs, the stickers and sticker removal, like you mentioned, those are probably top two.
Yeah. Really, really slow down the process when you've got to do a bunch of Ollie stickers.
Sure.
I get it.
Yeah. That's never fun. A lot of goo gone being utilized.
Right.
Does it come in gallon jugs?
Yeah, we get the big jugs.
Right.
Yeah.
After the prep center is up and running and everything is smooth, what's the next thing you want to get into?
So I've always had a few plans. I'd love to buy another property for sure. We've got one in Lake Worth, Delray, and Boca Raton. Buying another property's always great. Obviously now is a bit of a rocky time, but another thing that I've looked into is coin laundry. It's hugely profitable. It's kind of a business that runs itself. Once you just have to cover maintenance and maybe have someone on site, worst case scenario. But I looked into that, and just the spaces, they're pretty expensive right now. So the best way to do it is to buy one that's already built out with a customer base. So coin laundry, dry cleaning, vending, those are probably top three.
Nice.
That I'd like to pursue next.
Yeah. I'm not interested in the dry cleaning. I am interested in the other two.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm not interested in the dry cleaning is I've heard that they can be a bear to sell just due to the chemicals and stuff like that later on down the road. But I walked into the coin laundry next to my barber because it looked a little run down on the front. And I was like, oh, this looks like an acquisition, you know. And I walk in there and they're like, oh, I'm like, hey, you know, who's the owner? Are they here? Would they, you know, they have a second? And they come out and it's like a 30-year-old guy. And he's like, hey, I'm the owner. I'm like, oh, you know, I'm kind of interested in getting into a coin laundry. I'm like, well, you guys interested in maybe talking about selling or anything like that? And he's like, I just bought this place 2 weeks ago. I was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
So
it's a hot business.
Yeah, he bought it from like a 75-year-old lady or something who had been running it for years and years, and they were in the process of updating it and getting it, you know, ready to go. So
yeah. No, that's a good point. And if you look at listings, you know, in South Florida for coin laundry, and you connect with sellers or the brokers, a lot of it are those, you know, the older folks that are ready to kind of move on, and then, you know, the younger 30-year-olds are kind of scooping things up. So it's a business that would always be needed, because not every apartment or house has laundry. It's a recession-proof business, and it's really something that I'm going to explore.
Yeah, fascinating.
We've talked about the data of the amount of businesses, the aging self-employed, you know, who don't have a lot of, you know, like family under them willing or even interested in taking over. You know, there's a lot of opportunity in businesses that are about to turn over.
Yeah, car washes is another one that I've found, but a little bit of a bear to run, and expenses really add up. But yeah, that's another business where those owners are looking to kind of move on.
They don't tell you that on TikTok when you see all those people dumping out the change from their car washes. Yep. So if someone wanted to sign up for the Prep Center, I would imagine this episode. How soon until you guys are open?
Yeah, so we're actually get the keys here next week, so we'll start building out July 1st, and then the middle of July we should start, you know, with a wait list and accepting clients, and then August 1st is when we'll be up and running.
Okay. So by the time this episode airs, you will have already had the keys, and you should have your wait list open.
Yes.
If someone wanted to become a client, where do they go and find you guys at?
So for now, you can reach us at prepboyz.com, or you can go ahead and give me a shout on Discord. It's Road to Riches, RD2RICHES. And like I mentioned on socials, I don't have any socials. I have Facebook only for my mom and you know, her older friends. But other than that, I just kind of I sit back and I learn from the people that I work closely with. You know, kind of better myself with audiobooks and things of that nature. But social media is just it's not really the place for me. But I do know for business and my brand, I do have to get back into it. So that's kind of one of my goals for this year.
Yeah, perfect.
I think we talked about it with how much we like Twitter.
Yeah,
what we like about it is the ability to filter. Yeah. You know, and I think that's true across all the channels. You know, I think wide open, no social media is probably ideal for it. There's probably no target, you know, 100% target audience. So, but if you're able to filter it, you know, which essentially is what you're doing on Discord.
Yeah.
You're seeking specific, you know, topics and specific people talking about that, which is right in line with what we like about Twitter. So
no, that's a good point. And maybe that comes down to why I don't like Twitter is perhaps my Twitter account was filled with folks who were talking about stocks and cars, and it wasn't really dedicated towards Amazon or that kind of business. So maybe it's time to create a new one. So
yeah, absolutely.
We'll see. I'll keep you guys updated.
Yeah. Speaking of people, you know, you tell Christian and Saul that I'm incredibly disappointed they didn't come down. It would have been a lot of fun to have all you guys on here at the same time. Now I know I know that they're about to have a baby, which is incredible. But yeah, we'll have to have you back on after this open. What I'd love to learn from you later on down the road is what you learn from having a prep center and kind of dealing with the Amazon clientele and things like that, and kind of how you refine your processes as the volume goes up in a prep center. So I think that'd be fascinating.
Yeah, and I think just communicating with folks who have prep center experience and understanding that, of course, there's going to be things that need to be wrinkled out, but you know, I'm willing to learn. My partners are willing to learn and grow, and I'm just excited to help more people than I do now. So that's kind of what keeps me going.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you guys do well with the Prep Center, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you driving down here and hanging out with us in Miami.
Hey, I love Miami.
Yeah.
Get some food after.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys, that's the pod. Make sure to go check out prepboys.com. It'll all be in the show notes, of course, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening to Clear the Shelf with Chris and Chris. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a screenshot on your phone and share to Facebook, Instagram, or your favorite FBA group, and be sure to tag me and let me know why you liked it and what you'd like to hear more from us in the future. Also, I'd like to give you some free gifts for listening. Head over to rabbittrailchallenge.com and repricerchallenge.com for some free courses to further your business. Thanks for listening.